Catherine had hesitated for a few beats too long. She could feel the way Zach had noted that, tucking the fact away to use a hint to try to crack into her past. He was like that, soundly aware all the time. She loved it, except for when she didn't. I could use more work, she said carefully. However, I don't think I'm equipped to do the books for something as large as a nightclub. Had her voice tightened when she said the word nightclub. She didn't think so, but her throat had definitely seized up a little. But thank you for thinking of me. You sure, Mo asked? The job's yours, as much of it as you want. Beside him, Amy nodded. That's very kind. It's not beyond your reach, Zach said. His voice was soft, coaxing. Confidence wasn't the issue. In fact, she was quite confident. Confident she could not work in another nightclub, even if it seemed warm, cozy, and friendly. No thank you, she said, wincing at the sharpness of her reply. I'm not ready for something like this, and she wasn't. She was scared. She landed herself in the same old predicament as last time. We could send you to the city for training, Zach offered. Mo and Amy shared a small shrug, wordlessly agreeing. And what would I do with Xavier? She fussed with one of his booties. The whole idea is for me to be able to work around his schedule. Mo and Amy had eased away, no doubt aware of this was quickly becoming a fight. Their first fight as a couple. Were they a couple? As flatmates then. Because they were not a couple. There wasn't even any attraction there, other than the poorly physical kind, which counted for nothing but a boatload of trouble, and the banter and jokes they had. Good friends had that. Flatmates too. You're right, it's too much, Zach said casually, sending Catherine mentally off balance. He was pulling back from the verbal tussle as if he'd already been knocked out. She turned away, unsure how to react to what had felt like an unteen dig. So, was that it? Fight over? What was his long game? As she pondered their fight, a cowboy came in and sat down at the other end of the bar. He was wearing a hat and boots and looked like he may have ridden up on a horse. Can I get a whiskey yet? He asked Mo. Nope, he replied. Aw, man, muttered the cowboy. We're still hours before. We are still before hours. We are, Co. The man spun around from the bar, pausing as though debating whether to stick it out until opening or not. He spotted Catherine and winked. She turned back to Zach and Xavier. At least it looked as though Mo was a stickler when it came to obeying local serving laws. Catherine liked that. But just because he didn't serve outside the permitted hours didn't mean he wouldn't shift money around under the table or avoid paying his taxes. And doing the accounting here isn't too much for me to handle if I wanted to, Catherine said to Zach, unable to resist taking up the argument again. Okay. She sat a little straighter, her eyes locked on the bottles of liquor lined up against a mirror on the opposite wall. Her gaze was resolute, her cheeks hot. She caught Zach's eye, and this time refused to be the first to look away. It's not too much for you, he repeated simply, opening his clasped hands. It's not. She spun to face him instead of his reflection. Okay. He wasn't nearly as insistent as she was, and it was making her flustered. He'd thrown her off and gotten under her skin. Can you guys help us out over here when you finished your lover's spat? Mo called. Zach tipped his chin upward, acknowledging Mo. He said to Catherine, so we agree that it's not too much. He calmly slid off his stool, hand extended to help Catherine off her own. She refused his assistance. It's not too much at all, she said, tossing her ponytail behind her, as she flounced toward the makeshift stage over the jukebox. She heard Zach mutter, I do love a sassy woman. She felt the urge to turn and stick out her tongue, knowing Zach, he might take it as an invitation to do something that would make her body throb and her head grow light. Wait, if they were in agreement, had she just inquisitorily agreed to something, such as the nightclub's accounting? He turned the whole argument around on her. She put her hands on her hips and spun to face Zach, causing him to bump into her. His hand slipped around her waist, bracing her against him. He felt good, too good. You don't get to mess with my mind, you hear me? I do. Which is it? You do get to mess with my mind, or you do hear me?